So, starting on why you might hate your life, and I'm going to be speaking strictly from my experience and what I've observed over the last couple of years, I'd say. And for me, the gist of it really comes down to who I want to be and who I am can't connect. There's a line from a song by NF where it's called "Why." He literally says, "Who I am and who I want to be cannot connect. Why?" And I feel like that really kind of nails all of this down, right? There's this paradox, this tension that we deal with, right, when we find ourselves in spaces like this where we have this identity that we have for ourselves, right? We watch all of these motivational, self improvement content online, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is, right? Or reading books, right? You might find yourself, you've done the self improvement thing, you've gone to gym for a an extended period of time. You've cleaned up your diet for a bit. You've gotten off social media for a bit. You've actually started making some progress. But for me, in my experience over the last, geez, I'm turning 24 in like 2 months or a month when this video comes out. And I think for me, this has probably been the last decade, if I can say, where I've gotten into like, man, I've fallen in love with this idea of I can change my life. I can improve my life. Life doesn't have to be the way it is now. Like I can do better for myself. And man, I watched Jose Zuniga from Teaching Man's Fashion. I think in 2021 when Hamza blew up, I was all over that content. Iman Gadzi, I was all over that content. Chris Williamson, I love his podcast. Still love it to this day. I've really sunk into a lot of the self-improvement content, and I've had many distinct periods in my life where I've been following self-improvement. I know in high school, I really wanted to become a professional football player. It was a very, very, very unrealistic dream. But nonetheless, I was like, let me chase it because, shoot for the stars, you might land on the moon. But even if you don't, I was like, dude, if I get to 22, 23, and I'm like, this maybe isn't for me, which is exactly what happened. I was just like, I'm never going to regret that I spent, a certain number of years training and like physically conditioning myself. And that's exactly what I experienced. So I had a period like that in high school. I started hitting the gym. I was training like hectically. Um, I had these brutal routines, and lo and behold, they wouldn't stick, over a long, long period of time. But I remember up until so it's so interesting because in high school that was my main thing. I wanted to get good at football, so that was like I guess you'd call it my first love. I loved football. I fell in love with football. Still love football to this day. It's the best sport in the world. But it was a thing for me that I was like, man, I really love this thing and I really want to get good at it. And for me, I fell in love with that idea and I haven't fallen out of love with it today. And it's part of, I guess, this thing where, you struggle with wanting to be somebody that you're currently not. And that gap really frustrates you, right? It was this idea of, I love seeing an athlete who can look back on their career and they're like, man, look at that season I had. Look at this catalog of seasons I've had where I just kept on going. Like I was setting records or whatever it is, right? You've got a body of work you can look back at. And obviously in this current day, at, almost 24, I can look back and say, I still have this thing. I really want this thing of like, I like the idea of having a body of work you can look back at. Apart from sports, music, I love when an artist puts together an album. I'm like, this is a perfect album. Like, this is an album you can look back and be like, I put in 2, 3 years, however many years or hours they put into that. They can look back and be like, this is timeless. This is here. Or a writer writes a set of books that are just incredible. They can look back and be like, this is my life's work. Like Jordan Peterson, for example, his book Maps of Meaning, which I still haven't read, and I would love to get to reading to that. That book apparently took him really, really long to write, and he wrote it in like his prime physical condition. Like I think in his 20s, 30s. I might be wrong on that, but he said it's the most difficult book he's ever written. But again, you can just imagine writing a book like that. It's like in there you've got a man who has put in his best hours every single day for an extended period of time into that. I find that so admirable, and I think it's what we're called to as men. To reach our fullest potential. I mean, I've seen this TikTok from like last year, going around where it's like, it's a shame for a man to grow old and not see what he's capable of. And I resonate with that. And also from obviously a biblically Christian perspective, as men, we should be run out for the kingdom, right? We want to get to the end, hear, well done, good and faithful servant. We want to look back. Again, I love the idea of like, we want to look back at life when it's all said and done in the same way that a footballer or, a tennis player or whatever, an athlete who's just finished a game, literally just drops to the ground and is like, man, I gave that all I had. I think for me that's my goal, and I assume it's a goal. It's the goal for a lot of people that are watching this as well. I assume it's the goal for you, and obviously we get attracted to the self-improvement thing now because obviously it gives us this space where something becomes possible. It's not just, I'm sitting back and I'm watching other people live life, but I can't. I've got something I can do now. I can change. I can get better.